We are two guys, one cup.
Everyone relax. It is Monday, the 9th of March. This is Two Guys, One Cup, an AFL adjacent podcast. I'm Charlie Clausen, and if you can hear that familiar sound of disappointment in my voice, it's because footy is back, opening round is done, and here to discuss it all with me is good friend of the show, Adam the Spencer. Welcome back. What are you kissing there?
This here, Charlie, is the actual, when you walk into the SCG, there's a series of sporting statues like the MCG has around the SCG, and there's one of Paul Roos hoisting the 2005 Premiership Cup when he says, for those who've waited for Sydney and South Melbourne to here it is. This is the actual bronze model that the sculptor made in miniature, sent it into the Swans and said, this is what I think it's going to look like. And they said, cool, I bid on it at a charity auction a couple of years ago, and it's now my prized possession. And I've been sleeping with it for the last few days.
Actually,
after the start of the 2026 season.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I don't know what St Kilda would have the equivalent. I mean, I have been to Moorabbin since they did the upgrade, and we do have our lone Premiership Cup sitting in a window that faces the training field. And it's kind of like, I understand the reasoning, the architectural reasoning behind it. It's meant to inspire the players, but to me, it's quite oppressive to look up and to see that. It's like the boy in the glass tower, that one solitary Premiership Cup looming over the playing group.
But there's also, from what I understand, there's some pictures taken on the day of the winning team, and they're in black and white daguerreotype that took 3 months to reproduce on an old wax seal, and there's some hieroglyphics written along the bottom saying, well done to the Saints.
Yeah, that's right. It's all pictures on a cave wall. But let's go back to Thursday, and you must be happy. I mean, what a emphatic, if you go to the dictionary and look up emphatic, that third quarter, my goodness. Like, I think no one was really expecting Carlton to win, I don't think. Even Carlton fans, from what I can gather, were, not that optimistic about going into it. But then at halftime, you're like, okay, it's a bit of a contest. It's, Carlton have brought their strength, which is their contested footy.
Yep.
And then after halftime, the Swans were like, okay, we're just going to wake up now and just go absolutely berserk.
Well, strictly immediately after halftime, Carlton kicked the next 2 goals. And we're out to 20-odd in front. And there was starting to be a sense in the crowd of, oh, boy, here we go. Because the Swans have said they're going to play a new game style this year. We're going to be faster, more handballs, just roll it through. You could see a mixture of opening night nerves, first time ever trying to play this new style in actual full-on conditions, and a pretty dewy, slippery cake of soap football. Yeah. Guys just dropping things they shouldn't have dropped. And then once that all settled down a bit and we got to execute what we wanted, it was those 12 goals in 20-odd minutes were pretty sweet to watch if you were a Swans fan.
So take me through the build up to the game. So where I know, Swans fans aren't a monolith. You're all individuals, but last year was a bit of a disappointing year. Yep. Smacked in the grand final, very common for a team. Lose your coach. Very common for a team to kind of lick their wounds the following year. And a lot of people, I'm not saying anyone on this podcast in particular, were really enjoying the Swans in the pits of misery.
Yeah, but not anyone who's not currently on this podcast, at least, no.
Yeah, and then you look at the list and you're like, okay, well, they're due to bounce back. And then you get Charlie Curnow of the trade period. So what was the vibe from Swans fans that you were talking to going into this season and going into the game?
Nervous excitement. You can't blame injuries, but it was crippling at the beginning of last year. Errol Goulden didn't play for the first 13 rounds. Papley played 1 and there was then out for 10 plus. Callum Mills was out for the first half of the season. 3 pretty important players, and things just spluttered along a bit. You're looking at a team that beat Brisbane at home with 2 rounds to go last season in a game that really mattered for Brisbane when we didn't have that much in theory to play for. So there's some potential there. You then throw Charlie into the mix. You lose Will Hayward, who's a good player. Ollie Florin goes. So it's bubbling along. Sydney we were, as collective fans, on the edge of our seat on Thursday. And just like the players, we just wanted it to start.
Right.
There'd been enough talk. There'd been enough hype. Let's just get down and make... And that as always happens, I think, probably anywhere for opening round. But when it is the opening game of round 0, and as a mathematician, Love round zero, Charlie. Quick sidebar.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, before the very first round zero, hosted again by the Swans, I was in a function and I bumped into Andrew Dillon, the newly appointed AFLC. And I said, mate, this round zero is going awesome. And I said, can I make one suggestion, mate? Next year, how about round -1? And if you score more points than the opposition, you lose 4 competition points. And Dillon was great. He just looked at me for a couple of seconds, nodded and said, we'll think about that. And then just turned like the sort of guy who must just be stopped at the shops by idiots who want to suggest rule changes. He just nodded politely and then just showed me his back as he walked off. But we were ready to go. And it was a bit stressful at halftime. That third quarter it's only round zero, but as electric a quarter, third quarter in particular, that's been played at the SCG in a long time. I think the Swans have only 7 times in their history kicked 12 goals in a quarter of footy, and we did it in the last 20 minutes of the quarter.
Yeah, it was weird, right? Like it was almost a perfect storm in that Swans, who are a good second half team, and Carlton, who, as we learnt last year, are just a team that has a tendency to play half a game of football or even like 3/4 a game of football. And the two things came together, and when the wheels fell off, they fell off big time, because you had the Charlie thing that was bubbling underneath. And, there was a bit of, even like with Hayward against the Swans and Ollie Florent, there was a little bit of, but it all seemed like fun. And it's sort of hard to get sucked into that stuff these days, isn't it? Because I I had some Carlton mates losing their minds in the chat. And after the game, it was a bit of an asshole thing to send. But I did say, seeing the Carlton players hug their opponents after the game was the hardest I saw them tackle all night, because they are all mates. Like, they all play junior footy together. They all play for different clubs. But ultimately, like, it's not like it used to be. It's not like State of Origin, mates against mates. It's like they're still kind of friendly. And so even though there was that angst, but it felt like there was a little more angst. And I think it wasn't so much for the Carlton. I didn't feel it was like the Carlton players going up to Charlie and being like, fuck you. I felt like Charlie had the weight of expectation on himself. Like, I feel like that's where the pressure was coming from.
And there is a little bit of an undercurrent that the Charlie deal was a massive deal, and Will and Ollie, who both ended up getting traded, I think were both overseas at the time it happened, and it went down to literally 2 minutes before trade closes. I wasn't able to watch it on TV. I was on my phone, refreshing my phone, and it had gone past 7:30 before a message came through saying, I think I just saw some people shaking hands. They sealed it at like 7:28 and 50 seconds or something. So it was remarkably tense. And I think everyone wishes that Will and Ollie had been able to exit on better, more friendly, amicable terms. So there was always going to be a little bit of that. Charlie was clearly a bit nervous. The fact that he didn't get his first goal until the middle of the absolute torrent, you could feel that just the Carlton fans wanted to boo at that stage, and they just didn't really have it in them. They booed him the first couple of times he touched the ball. He had one shot that hit a post, great. But then when he kicked out, I think 6th and 9th of a 12-goal run in 20 minutes, the Carlton fans just didn't have it in them to boo anymore. I think there's a challenge with that Carlton team that it's not as though that's loaded with players who aren't good enough to play AFL football or anything like that, but there seem to be a lot of players who bring a very similar offering, and they don't have many players, and we're lucky to have a couple like a Chad Warner who can play tough inside, but if he gets it outside, can also run reasonably quickly. I think they've got quite a few tough inside players. I don't know if they've got guys who can go in and out the way a couple of our guys did, including Errol Goulden, who was just sublime in that third quarter.
Yeah, you really notice how much you miss Errol Goulden in that game when you think about last year. But I think it's also the game style. Like, as you know, I know you listen to the show, and last year Carlton became a bit of a point of fascination for me, particularly around the Carlton fans.
Yep.
And so, of course, I did have to jump onto Blue Broad as soon as the siren went. Terry's a friend of the show. I like to support his to support his channel, but I also like to see what they have to say.
What was going down at Blue Abroad, Charlie?
Well, he had his mate Joe, who I think also hosts a Carlton-centric podcast, and this was he was the first guy on Talkback.
Joe.
Mate. Fuck.
I think that just
So
summed it up. But here's
it's
the
30.
thing. Here's the
It's
interesting thing,
just
right?
so it's 30 seconds before any words are spoken. It's just painful laughing.
Cry laughing.
Then it's ho, ah, fuck.
Now, there is a stark difference between like last year when they lost in round 1 to the Tigers, completely unexpected boil over, and the anger, like that's what sort of kickstarted this whole fascination for me. But then I watched this, and there is a general belief amongst Carlton fans that like, all right, like we know either Voss is going to lose his job, some massive change is happening at the end of the year. Maybe he coaches out the year, we don't know. But this is just a season of like where obviously going to blood some kids. Jagger looks all right, but there is, and I only, I'm not. This is no Schadenfreude. I get this. I'm a footy fan who's been doing this for almost 45 years, looking at a season and being like, all right, what can we pull from the fire? And so there is this sort of sense of, yeah, we're not going to boo Charlie. You know, even like the TDK and Silvani going to St Kilda, like I don't even know that there's that much anger anymore. It's kind of just this.
Yeah. Well, I said this to you guys last year on a pod that the for 2 years, up until the end of last year, Carlton fans had regularly been on socials after a loss going, this is diabolical, this is appalling, I'm microwaving my membership, sack Voss, burn him to the ground, 30 years of heartache, why do I give my life as a...
Yeah.
And it's as though Charlie Curnow saw 2 years of those comments and thought, you know what, you guys might be onto something here. Okay, I'll go. And suddenly it's, you traitor, you dirty swine. How could you walk out on this great club that I just microwaved my membership to for the 4th time in the last 12 months? You can't have it both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the blessing and the curse, right? Of being like a giant Victorian club or just a giant club in general, is that when things are going well, like it's the greatest place to be. But when things are going badly, or when, in Charlie's case, I think he was injured most of last year, and sure, they were dysfunctional and things weren't working, but you just become the target of like the biggest supporter base in the group to saying it's you, it's your fault. So when I found out, because I had no idea that Charlie, his personality type, like I didn't realize he was a surfer because he's trying to get to Geelong, I think, before he went to the Swans. And then I found out, that's right. He's the guy who rides his bike to the MCG on game day. Like he's this chill kind of dude. And I think, I can't remember who it was Kane Corns or someone on one of the sports channels was saying, like, imagine being Charlie on Friday morning where you wake up, you kicked 3 goals, you did your part, played in front of a packed house, but now it's Friday morning. You grab your towel, you grab your surfboard, you head down to Bondi or Maroubra, go for a surf. No one knows who you are. You can get a coffee. You're not going to have someone come up and talk to you about the game. You can just get on with your life. He's not a footy head like, some people. He's just a guy who is very good at this, but has other things he wants to do in his life.
Yeah, the most that'll happen is on your walk back to the car, one person will stop you and say, if my son could have a photo, it would be the greatest day of his year. And that's the balance we've got in Sydney. It's really hard to get people here sometimes. It costs a bucket to live here. You take people away from their family. But in that superstar, like Barry Hall, Buddy Franklin weren't able to go to the shops in their last couple of years in Melbourne, and they came and found that solace in Sydney. The other thing I'll tell you, a little inside scoop on Charlie Curnow, Charlie. So I sometimes go to the Swans HQ post game where a few players will eventually come up after the debrief and all that. They've got changed, and
I'm familiar with a social club. I know what a social club is. You don't have to call it a HQ.
Yeah. So a lot of them are suddenly in the sort of Swans kit. It'll be a polo, tracksuit pants, whatever. Some players are still in post-game pit if they've got some ice on or whatever. And Charlie Curnow was rocking around in neither of those, just some really, a little casual hoodie and some pretty funky pants and shoes that he didn't quite have his feet into. And he looked like you know how the Swans will do a pair up with Sydney Sweeney or anyone. If you told someone who didn't know footy, he's just played Laneway Festival. He's the hottest white rapper in the US at the moment. We're so excited to have him here.
It's Jack Harlow.
Would have passed that test in a heartbeat.
Yeah. It makes sense, right? Like Sydney, and like you need at least one rock star. He doesn't have to be the most like Lance Franklin was not like an extrovert in the sense of like doing a lot of interviews or
Huh.
press or whatever, but at the aura. And I think that Charlie definitely has that, especially in a market like Sydney, where you're right, like being the kind of shoeless Joe Jackson wearing a hoodie, like that's got some appeal to it, especially in that kind of that sort of that Bondi kind of surfer type.
And I don't think it's a surprise that you're seeing Brodie Grundy plays some of the very best football of his career up here as well. The occasional serious footy fan will say hi to him, and he's pretty easy to spot, but he'd be having nowhere near the attention he was having at Collingwood or Melbourne, back in Melbourne.
Yeah. I mean, you sort of talk about like for a Swans player, the biggest inconvenience is someone coming up and asking for a photo for their kid. I guess if you're a Giants player, the inconvenience is someone comes up and asks, "Can you park my car?" Because they
Yeah.
literally have no idea who you are.
Oh, the biggest inconvenience for the Giants is sometimes on a Saturday afternoon when you're driving to Western Sydney (brackets Homebush) to play, the traffic in Bondi and Bronte, where they all live, can be quite substantial. So sometimes you've got to allow an extra 15 minutes to come up Bondi Road on your way to Western Sydney.
Well, let's talk about the Giants.
Whoa, yeah.
I mean, I was very worried about them going into this year. Hawks, I understood there was some concerns as well, but I did not expect. I don't think anyone expected that result. I mean, speaking of players who, would live near the beach, I don't think Clayton Oliver is one of those. I think that's a guy who's would be happy to live in the West, as far away from the beach and the sun
Yep.
and the sand as possible. But I know. Look, you always have to. You always go hard on the Giants, and I know it's like it's all in good fun, but I wonder if there is a missed opportunity not to do the Battle of the Bridge in opening round. Like, is that not a better exposure for the Giants if you're trying to expand all of Sydney, both markets, Western Sydney and the rest of Sydney? Like, shouldn't this be the feature game?
Look, there's arguments both ways. I can understand why the AFL went Swans Carlton this round because that had that real extra post
Yes, of
Charlie
course. Yeah.
spice on it. I think they think if they play two Sydney teams at home in opening round, that's a good thing. And I don't mean to be, nasty about it.
Here we
If
go.
it was if it was at the SCG, maybe. If it was out at the Giants Stadium, at least half the fans would be Swans fans anyway. That's not the way you're really going to spread the ground. But
Yeah.
but all credit to them because they had a significant injury list. I think what that showed you on the weekend was Tom Green, as great as a player he is, can be covered a bit more by the Giants, and it
Yeah.
looks like Will Day can be covered by the Hawks. But the Giants were two or three of their they've got a decent list, but two or three of their really key guaranteed first choice in the 22 players out. And Jakey Stringer just went, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'll kick a lazy 5.
And Finn Callahan as well. Like, I think he's going to explode this year. But I think, because it always in games like this too, and apart from, the Bulldogs and the Bulldogs and the Lions and the Saints and the Pies, the games were kind of mostly one-sided. And with the one-sided games, you're always like, well, does this tell us more about the team that won or the team that lost? Look, the Giants have a track record of being a good side. We shouldn't have doubted them. I think it was a surprising result. But I think the bigger concern is, Hawthorn really should have won that match. And they weren't missing as many players. Sure, Will Day's not there, but Will Day hasn't been reliably on the list for about 18 months now. So this is the team. And it's just funny, right? Like the Hollywood Hawks that you talk about aura and teams playing with this kind of spirit. I sort of feel that maybe I didn't see much of that. Like that sort of Jack Ginnivan, Marbiol Chol, Nick Watson, like the entourage, Rat Pack. They just seem to be lacking a bit of that. And I don't know if it's maybe, okay, it's easy to sort of surprise people and be the surprise package, but when you're a known quantity and now there's expectation, suddenly do you think it's a mental thing? Like they're not playing with the same freedom?
I'm happy to say it here first, Charlie.
That's exclusive.
I was lucky enough not to be involved in your 2 preseason previews with Broden Kelly, where you tipped the top 8, middle 8, bottom 6, final 10, top half of the bottom bit of the final 10 of the playoff game, etc. But you've heard it here first. those last 2 years where you've been saying, how is this team of recently drafted kids? How are they performing as well as they? How can they be back? They were never back. They were overperforming this year. Bottom six.
Is that
Hawthorn
right?
gone.
Well, it's interesting. And do you think it is would you put it down to just it's a midfield thing? Like they just don't have a good enough midfield?
I think your point of there's a chance after a while that gets found out
Mm.
is significant. It's only one game, so it's too early to say, are they trying to just replicate the same game style again, or have they evolved a little bit? So too early to say after one game, and I'll be honest with you, I was only saying it for clicks, Charlie.
Okay,
But
good. No, I like
yeah,
it. I like it.
let's
And
watch this space.
Swan Talks rivalry.
Yeah.
We know that Sam Mitchell has been throwing himself into AI when it comes to his coaching. I know you're a bit of an expert when it comes to AI. Do you think that has had any part in their poor start to the year?
Yeah,
Has the AI been hallucinating the game plan? Hey, let's
yeah,
play Mitch Lewis in the middle. Get James
yeah.
Sicily on the bench.
Yeah, well, it's a good idea to embrace new technology and all of its strengths. You do have to be aware of the weaknesses. I think Hawthorn's decision that in the last week leading up to that game, Sam Mitchell was not actually physically present. It was just an AI avatar
That's right.
that had been trained on 2 years of Sam Mitchell press conferences that was giving all the instructions. It was hallucinating all over the place, making up all sorts of rubbish. But someone asked it, so, am I playing forward of the ball or back of the ball? And its answer was the capital of France is Nairobi. And so you can either interpret that, and if you're trying to play to that game plan, it can get a little bit confusing for the boys.
I wonder if you had to pick, like, of all the sort of classic robots from TV, like if you had to put one in place for Sam Mitchell in the coach's box with the AI brain of Sam Mitchell, like
Mm.
Dexter from Perfect Match. I'm thinking Metal Mickey,
Mm,
maybe like a Dalek. Like who's
mm,
going in the coach's box? I
mm.
mean, a Dalek kind of has that Sam Mitchell kind of cold-eyed sort of like lack of humanity. I could imagine a Dalek doing a
Yeah,
press conference after
well,
Hawthorn loss.
a couple of seasons from now, Scott Pendlebury will probably look like Davros, the Lord of the Daleks. But my one be, I'm going to go really obscure, old
Yeah.
school here for your sci-fi fans.
Yeah.
Any fans of the old epic, and if you haven't watched it, you should. Sci-fi series Blake's Seven. And Blake's Seven were a group of criminals fighting against the
Oh, not Blake
Federation.
Hardwick. It's not Blake Hardwick.
Not
7.
Blake Hardwick.
Okay,
Blake
sorry.
Brackett Hardwick's Seven.
Yeah.
And they had a supercomputer on that show called ORAC. And ORAC was the smartest computer in the entire universe back in 1978. But there's one episode where ORAC had the ability, it was so powerful, to contract space-time itself and shrink itself down to being incredibly small. And it just sat in the ear of Avon when Avon was playing chess against the greatest chess player in the world, who was actually another computer. And Avon beat him because he had ORAC in his ear. So I would get ORAC, I'd miniaturize ORAC, I'd put an ORAC in each of the Hawthorn players' ears, and they would have real-time Sam Mitchell just plugging straight into their neurons. Sam Mitchell would just have to think, and it would happen.
You know what the footy media landscape is missing, Adam, is Blake 7 references. So
Yes.
I'm just rapt that people can tune in to the first episode of Two Guys, One Cup for the season 2026 and get that Blake 7 reference, that ORAC reference has just so been desperately.
Just when they thought Will Anderson's not on the pod, so thank God there won't be all these hackneyed, out-of-date cultural references. Blake 7 people just one person hit us in the Everyone Relax universe follow-up comments and tell me they're a Blake 7 fan. I just need one.
Yeah, you can email us at twoguysoneCupAFL@gmail.com. Speaking of footy media, a bit of controversy leading in post the Swans and the Blues game was Daniel Gorringe playing the voicemail from his good mate and ex-Blues captain Sam Doherty, who went on the media beat it up as a rant. I thought it was actually quite a measured analysis of what Carlton did wrong in the game, which is the point of what Gorringe was trying to do, is like, okay, here's some insight into someone who knows. The controversy obviously being that Sam Doherty left a voicemail for his mate, not realizing that he was going to play it on air. So now we're just going to play a little bit of that just so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
last night is the same that happens every other game. When the game's hot and contested and pressurised, Carlton's good in that environment. But as soon as some team can do somewhat good in the contest, the rest of the game just falls to pieces. So
They are.
Yeah, it wasn't a rant at all. It was a very measured, direct. It's the sort of feedback that you actually could imagine some of the Michael Voss himself could well give that sort of direct feedback. The two interesting things here are, if it had just been left as a message and he was just giving you some background, the choice to play it. I know that Gorringe has sort of, hasn't he? He's done that sort of heel turn. He's gone from being the lovable guy who, got drafted by the Suns and then wasn't that good and went on, he went on the Big Brother edition and all that. And now he's just the guy who's going to paint his head blue and try and cripple Dave Hughes in a celebrity match. He's just chosen to become the sort of Darth Vader of AFL media. His call to play that. People are asking, is that just going to shatter Carlton to hear their immediate past captain talking like that? Or is it the absolute straight dial between the eyes those guys need to shake themselves out of a bit of lethargy and come to terms with it? Only time will tell.
I think it's all, look, I understand the ethics around playing a voicemail from someone who wasn't aware that was going to be aired. I get that. But in terms of the actual content of what he was saying, I don't think there's anything in it that you probably didn't hear from like Blue Broad or any media outlet that was focusing on what the Blues were doing wrong. And even Doherty afterwards, because I saw him, he apologized not for what he said, but the fact that he swore. Like he was saying that if he was giving a quote to the press, he would have cleaned up his language a little bit. But even that, I'm like, I mean, we've sworn like 5 times on this show already. So it's not really, the media landscape has changed, but it's interesting the way Gorringe doubled down, because a lot of people came out, legacy media, like, Jared Waitley and Caroline Wilson and 3AW, a bunch of people.
Betrayal.
Yeah. And he came out and was like, oh, old man media is so funny. And it's like, well, look, I don't want to take a side on either of these things because I think it's a dick move to do it. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world. Like, it wasn't like he undermined his mate by doing it. It was just, it was an inconvenience more than anything.
Yeah, if he'd said something like, and this player, who I always thought was terrible when I was there and never understood why he got a Guernsey, and I was embarrassed to run out on the field with him every week, ...
Yeah.
That sort of thing could be quite corrosive and destructive. I think it's probably the kick up the bum they may well need.
Did you guys, when you were doing ABC or when you're on Triple J with Will, did you ever have something like that happen with someone you're interviewing, like a band or an artist or someone who came in who maybe said something on a hot mic that you guys had to work out whether or not you're going to play?
When I was on Triple J with Will Anderson.
Yes.
That prick. And fuck me. I carried him for 6 fucking years.
Hang on. Make sure I'm recording.
Wrote his jokes. And this is what happened, Charlie. The show be going fine, right? But the moment the show got a little bit tough, the moment there was a contest on, he was out the door every fucking week. And who was it who stood up? Spence was the one who stood up. You see these shoulders, mate? You wonder why they're a bit droopy? Carrying him for 6... No. No, I can't. I can't recall any hot mic stuff we ever had to. We had to edit for language a lot, and the grey zone around you could, acknowledge some of the lifestyle choices that people made at live music venues and festivals and all that back in the day. Sometimes they got a little bit explicit for teenage years and had to be sort of left on the edit room floor.
I did have a mate years and years ago who had worked on a film with a big Hollywood star, and the film hadn't come out yet. It was still being cut, or it was going to be released, and he was promoting something else that he was working on a radio show. And in an ad break or a song break, they asked him about this Hollywood star, and he, not in a Sam Doherty fashion, in a very explicit fashion, said this.
Cut loose.
Yeah, this guy was a prick. He was like never work with him again, blah, 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 blah. And they aired it. And he was like, well, hang on, like we're in an ad break. And their defense was like, you're in a radio station with the mics are on. Just because we're in an ad break don't think that we don't own that. And I always thought, I defended my friend. I was like, that's not fucking fair. Like, sure, he knew he was on the record because he's there to do an interview. But I would expect that when you're playing an ad or you're going to a song that you're now off the record, right?
Yeah. I would certainly never. They must have still been recording.
Yeah.
Sure,
Well,
yeah. No,
they didn't play it they didn't play it while he's there. They just had the audio, and then the next day they played it. And this is and here's
so didn't even have the courage to play it back while he was in the room and get him to comment. Waited till he was far away on the press junket in Japan and then dropped it. Ugh.
Yeah, shocking. Let's go to another shocking topic that's a terrible segue. But it was Friday night, the Suns, oh boy, the Suns absolutely demolishing the Lions, the Cats, sorry. Now, I live up in the Northern Rivers. The forecast for Friday was pretty dire. They said it was going to bucket down. Didn't seem to hit until about 24 hours later. But boy, oh boy, do those Suns... It's hard to tell. Look, again, it's one of those things of what does this say more about? Like, are the Suns going to win the next 5 flags and we're all fucked because their list is incredible? Or are the Cats just doing what a professional team does and just easing themselves into a season? They had a couple of stars who are out. Like, it's sort of hard to get a gauge because they just looked phenomenal without Matt Rowell, mind you, without their Brownlow medalist.
It was an interesting one. I mean, they looked incredible. Petrarca looked like better than the Petrarca of old with a few extra kilos in his chest to barrel people and not afraid to stand over someone he's just tackled and give them a
I feel like
gobful.
the fan cams I should have gone to was whatever I mean, I'm not sure if the Ds even have one, but like the Charlie Curnow thing, yeah, Carlton fans like, oh man, like, yeah, it sucks, but we get it. But if I was a D's fan, I'd be like, I mean, can you believe this guy? Like, I understand that, like, we almost killed him and our doctors sent him back onto the field with cracked ribs and he should have been sent to a hospital. And then our president was calling him Trac instead of Christian in the press conference after. Anyway, I get all that. But just to see how much he's loving footy again would really annoy me as a Melbourne fan. I'm not sure if it'd annoy me about like, oh, did we stuff this up? It'd just be like either he didn't try hard enough when he was with us or we did not give him the environment where he felt like he would work that hard.
I think what it says, Charlie, and you should know this living up in that part of the world, he had that horrible incident and he would have had access to the best surgeons and rehab in the Western world through the Melbourne Football Club in Melbourne, one of the world science capitals, to try and get over those injuries. But what did he have? Western medicine, Charlie. Oh, science, peer reviewed. Mate, 3 months up on the Northern Rivers with a bit of woo-wah and some Reiki, he's a fucking monster, right?
That's right.
It turns out you don't need surgeons and scalpels and anesthetic. No. You need some healing crystals. You need your chakra aligned. You need to repeat a mantra a couple of times. And before you know it, you've put on 15 kilos of pack.
You're close, but you've missed the target because I'm in the Northern Rivers, where you're right. They'd be healing him with crystals and Reiki. But in the Gold Coast, I'm
Crystal
thinking it's
means
more
another thing altogether.
I'm thinking it's more like Stephen Dank era. Like on the Gold Coast, it's all about what HGH, what roids, what peptides, what can you put in my smoothie that's going to help me repair an injury like Wolverine. I mean, I mentioned to Broden when he was on doing the season preview, I did see Christian Petrarca about a month ago. I was up on the Gold Coast for the Actors, and I saw him. I went to dinner with my wife afterwards, and I saw him with his family, and like I saw his brand new Porsche station wagon, that had like the automatic doors, and I was like, you know what? Like most Australians who work like a normal 9 to 5 in one of the southern states will work 40 years in a job and then they'll move to the Gold Coast. Maybe they'll do the last 5 years of their job remotely or they'll retire and they set themselves up and have a pretty good life. I reckon Christian just got a head start on that. Like he's got his cooking show, like he's got these things set up that he's smart. Like this is a great place to make big bucks in the last sort of tail end, twilight of your career. I mean, not twilight, he's still in his prime, but, make some big bucks. But also he can afford a much bigger place in the Gold Coast than he could in Melbourne.
Yep.
It's warm up here. His injuries aren't going to be as bad. He's got a young family. Like, this is a very smart move, and also just goes into this team, which they are just so stacked. It's kind
Yep.
of frightening. Like, it's weird, right? Because the GWS and Gold Coast, since they've come into the competition, have been getting all these allowances and have been getting fed talent. But for some reason, the Gold Coast either couldn't retain or just couldn't develop properly. But now it seems like with Dimmer as coach, they're in that right spot. It'd be very,
It's
very.
all come together. It's all come together with some retaining some older talent for a while. You looked a few years ago at all the teams that won premierships. They had 2 or 3 ex-Gold Coast players. If Gold Coast had put out a team selected from their starting 22 and anyone who'd won a premiership for a club over the last 5 years, you go through Richmond, Stephen May at Melbourne, etc. They would have been old Charlie down at Port Adelaide, etc. Yeah, they would have been stacked. They've managed to hold on to them. They've had some academy talent come through. You know what the crucial thing was in securing the Petrarca deal, Charlie? I've got another exclusive for you here on Two Guys, One Cup. On Cavill Road there in the heart of the Gold Coast sort of nightclub district, there's a club called Tracs. And all they did was they just took the letter K out of the name and just put an apostrophe there, and they've given him that nightclub. And now that Tracs runs, Tracs just pulls the Porsche up out the front. Couldn't be happier.
I think that if I was a young man, like I'm 18, 19, just been drafted, there's worse places to go than the Gold Coast. I mean, schoolies is basically your reconnaissance trip, right? Like, you're up there, you're going, this is not a bad place. I can see myself living here. Like, I think it's a pretty, and unlike the Giants, who, as you accurately pointed out, you know, most of them live in the eastern suburbs. Like, there's lots of places that those guys can live in the southern Gold Coast, which is a really good lifestyle. Whether or not where the challenge for them is going to come is the season's long. They're going to travel a lot. They've only played the MCG like, I think, 3 times a year. They barely ever play there. And I think, will they be able to step up? I mean, it seems ridiculous because they're all like number one, like, you know, top 10 draft picks who are pretty used to excelling. But that will be the challenge. Is if you're taking on like a Brisbane or a Collingwood or a
but if the crowd back them in, and make that stadium, is it now called People's First or something?
Yeah.
If they make that an absolute fortress, and you pick up above average numbers of wins at home, then that probably balances out the stress. You might not need to head to the MCG until the second week of the finals.
Yeah, but you need to play on the MCG to know how to play the G, is my point. I don't know about the fortress thing too. Like, People First Stadium, I've been there quite a few times now, and it is like, the Beanstalk is weird because it's Homebush, and Homebush is just this giant concrete jungle. There's nothing there. Like, it's just empty. Sorry, not jungle, concrete desert. You get out there and it's empty. There's like a tumbleweed blows through and there's no atmosphere.
Right, concrete desert right in the heart of Western Sydney. Yeah.
And then,
Sorry.
And then you go to People First, and it's this stadium just sort of dropped, like, you know, it's 30 minutes from Surfers. It's just sort of dropped in the middle of this kind of, on the edge of an industrial estate. Not much public transport out there, and it doesn't. I don't find it fosters atmosphere quite like NG, which I don't love. I still think does a better job of creating like a vibe, especially if there's another, like, an NRL game happening in the stadium next door or whatever. But this one is just this satellite stadium. It's in the middle of nowhere, and there's no pubs you can go to. Like, the great thing about going to the SCG is like, oh, well, do you want to go to Cricketers or hit up like the Light Brigade or whatever? And there's a vibe, and then we'll walk to the ground. Whereas you can't do that at People First. It's like, well, you got to drive there. So you know, all these disparate groups of people are getting there and then walking the 50 meters from the car park to the ground.
Yep.
And there's no public transport. So you're not getting seeing people in the scarves and stuff like at Surfers getting on a bus. Like, it just, there's no
easy
build-up.
solution, Charlie.
What's
easy solution? Round 0, absolute sellout round. Game's on. Lock the gates. Don't let anyone out. Just create a week by week Hunger Games situation
Like it.
where the only fans allowed to leave the stadium and visit their friends or anything like have any contact with the outside world are the top 5% who are seen to cheer most ferally during a game, and it becomes a sort of Hunger Games versus Logan's Run type situation where the fans are competing against each other for the right to leave the stadium. That's when you get a certain sort of hostility, a certain sort of anger in there that can only charge up the Gold Coast boys. And they won't have to worry too much about not playing at the MCG all that often, Charlie, because I'm looking at the ladder and it's pretty obvious it's a Swans-Suns grand final. And we don't get to play at the MCG very often either. So it'll be great to watch two teams struggling to find their way to the
Well, look at
ground
these
where the grand
wings. They're
final's
so
being
wide.
hosted.
Yeah. It's this Gold Coast experiment, because as we know, like in any code or any sport that has tried to get a foothold in the Gold Coast, it's never worked. And people wonder why that is. Is it a cultural thing? Is it the weather? Is it the fact that people, aren't drawn to events the way they are in other parts of Australia? If the Gold Coast win a flag in the next couple of years, we're going to get like an absolute answer on that, which like you've got this incredible team loaded with stars, winning flags, playing an incredible brand of football, and you're still getting 8,000 people to a game. Then you know that it is not worth establishing a team in the Gold Coast.
No, absolutely. And I'm not taking another mindless dig at GWS. I think you're absolutely right because, I mean, GWS made the grand final in 2019. They've been a consistently good team since then, tipped by most experts most years to go top four, regularly tipped as they could win the whole thing. This year tips down a bit on the injuries. They got 16,000 against Hawthorn, which is great. A lot of them were Hawthorn fans. You can argue that 7 or 8 seasons into a long run of success, the GWS crowds are a little bit soft and concerning. It'll be real interesting to see because the Gold Coast now are giving fans a reason to come. If you're not going to come and watch that team with Petrarca, et cetera, now in it, then you're not going to come and watch football.
Yeah.
So you'll know a lot more about that place as a venue to host a club later into this season and next season if they have a really good year here.
It's funny too, watching the Gold Coast, like, people talk about the Bulldogs being a team of midfielders, but they also have that same thing where it's like even their lockdown defenders have a skill set where they can move the ball and hit targets on the run. Like the way they were just sort of slicing through, and admittedly Geelong looked a bit tired and old and like I said, maybe they just have got a slow start to the season, but man, oh man, like I just look at them and go, how do you defend that? Like, how do you defend a team where they don't seem to wilt under pressure because they're all top 20 draft picks who are highly skilled?
Geelong looked to me a little bit like if you've ever, when you had a kid of your own, had that phenomenon of being at playgroup or picking your kid up from preschool or something like that, or you're in the local park and you see that gentleman who's had the gift of childhood bestowed upon him a little bit later in life.
You're talking to me, yeah.
No, like the 55, 57-year-old first-time dad in the playground with the 3-year-old just running around, come on, put me on the swing, let's do that.
Yeah.
And this is dad who needs 3 Nurofen in the morning before he can roll out of bed.
Yeah.
Geelong just looked like that sort of dad at about 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning when the kid is pulling on the doona saying, let's go for a run, let's go for a play. The great one I love was I saw Kane Corns, friend of the show, Kane Corns, during the week commenting on that game. And he said, look, I'm a massive fan of Geelong and everything they've achieved. I'm not going to say a bad word about them. I'm not going to, if this is the end, it's been an incredible run and I'm not going to gloat about that. But they looked old. They looked tired. And I just put a little note in my diary. I won't be getting Kane Corns to speak at my funeral.
Look, I love Spence. He's great,
the sort
but
of
at the end, he looked
lovely
old.
guy and a very sad day. But gee, he could be a bit of a dick, couldn't he?
Let's move on to the other Queensland team. In what, mate? I mean, I'm calling it. Is that game of the year already? Opening round. I watched every second of this one. The Bulldogs and the Lions up at the Gabatoir. Just a seesaw. It seemed like such a typical, like Will has conditioned me into understanding the Bulldogs. Like Will with his kind of pessimistic view of the Bulldogs, even after their flag year, that they get a lot of the ball, they have a lot of shots on goal, but they can never seal it. And it looked like that kind of game straight away. Like the Dogs were getting the ball heaps, peppering. I think they were 3 goals 7 or 3 goals 9 at one point. And he just were waiting for the Lions to flex, which they did. And when the Lions flex, they flex real hard. And then it got to 20, I think, similar to the sort of Carlton thing. They got 20 points down in the last quarter and then just gutsed it.
Bang.
It was such a good win. Look, again, you're playing the Premiers who have had the longest, the shortest preseason. Who knows? Brisbane lost 5 out of 6 games leading into last year as well. But they look good, Brisbane. I didn't sort of feel like it was the Dogs jumped them and then they just, they were like the Cats who just look old and slow. The Lions look good and the Dogs look good. And then when it came down to just just like the arm wrestle at the end, the Dogs just did what they had to do. And I just thought it was such an enthralling game.
And kudos to Bevo on this one, because the stat I read was, in general across the last season, the Dogs will turn it and just go down the corridor about 15% of the time, and they doubled that to 30% of the time against Brisbane. That's a clear game plan. That's a clear coaching instruction. And if you want to take Brisbane on just by running straight up the guts at them, that's a bit of a risky dice to roll.
Yeah.
They clearly done their homework and they stuck to it when they were in trouble, and it paid off. So hats off to them, mate. It was an incredible game of football and an early contender too for goal of the year from the guy whose name.
Bailey's, what's his exact? Not he's got a Bailey in there. It's one of the
Bailey
Baileys
Dale?
that plays for the Bulldogs.
Bailey Dale?
Bailey, no, not Bailey Dale. It's the other Bailey. Smith, not Bailey Smith. Doesn't play for him anymore. There's another Bailey. Zach Bailey. I don't know. Anyway, yes, amazing goal of the year.
Oh, shimmy, shimmy, candy, left foot, bang. Oh,
Yeah.
that was just a cracking. That was everything that's good about football, that contest.
2 things I noticed is, one, Cam Rayner is just never going to be the player we all thought he was going to be. Like, we thought he was going to be a Dusty type, just just a dominant. I think, and Lions fans have told me that, oh yeah, no, he's just a cameo guy. He's just the guy you come in and he'll only 15 minutes a game. He'll just turn it on, kick 3 goals, and that's all he'll do. But I think that's not enough. I think that is a waste of his talent. Like, he should be a better player. He didn't really kicked 1 goal, I think, but he just goes missing for such large periods of time with someone with that amount of talent. The other thing is the flip side, which is Rory Lobb. Rory Lobb, who's been like a running punchline, again, mainly because of Will. Will just, for some reason, decided like Rory Lobb. He's a freaking good player, even with his stupid peroxide hair, with his Roman numerals for the 3 clubs he'd played. Could you work that out? Was it Roman numerals for how many games he played per club? Is that what it was? Because
what did the Roman numerals say?
I didn't. There was X's, O's, and C's. So I'm assuming they were Roman numerals.
X's, O. Well, if it's an O, you're getting out of a Roman numeral.
Is it Roman numeral? Or maybe it wasn't X. No, I could have sworn it was. There's definitely X's and V's. I thought it was Roman numerals. So he had 3 colours in his hair representing the 3 clubs he'd played for. So orange for the Giants, purple for the Dockers, and then blue or red for the Dogs. But then I think in Roman numerals, he'd written the numbers he'd played for each of those clubs.
Fantastic.
Now, it's like when you're a guy who's almost 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
All right. You're probably like, oh man, I just don't want to stand out. But then you dye your hair, like peroxide bleach it. And then it's like, I'm also just going to I'm just going to paint in Roman numerals, the number of games I played.
It used to be if you were the
club.
one player who turned up with white boots, that was your way of saying, I'm the man, everyone look at me. Then it became coloured boots. Now everyone wears coloured boots. So it's almost, if you wear white boots again, you're saying, I'm the man, look at me. Or you can dye your hair the colour of all the clubs you've played for before with a running tally of games. Did he, when the game was over, did he quickly run over and just spray an extra one?
An extra one.
If it had been the number of wins he'd had for each club, and he could have just stood there doing the post-match interview, re-spraying his hair to knock up the tally one, that would have been a true Lob move.
It's interesting, right? Like, he's a guy who I think they brought him over as a ruckman / forward, and then they are a team who were short on defenders and put him back, and now he's this excellent defender. And the Dogs, because I saw Kane. You never know with Kane because he's got that history with Bevo, but he comes out and it's like, the Dogs are going to win the flag. They've got the best list in the competition. And you're like, do you actually believe that? Or is it just a way for you to kind of set them up for a fail? But I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they just do look like a good side. I find it. I look at Brisbane still and like they're clearly the benchmark, and they just bat so deep, and they were missing players as well. But I don't know, maybe the Dogs at home or the Dogs at Marvel. They're such a quick side, and I said this in the preview with Broden as well. Like I just want Bont to win a Brownlow. Like
Yep.
I just love him so much as a footballer, and he is so unique, and we probably will never see a player like him again. It would be a shame. He's got the premiership medallion. That's great. He's got the All Australians.
Yep.
Let's just sort of like frank his Hall of Fame status by giving him a Brownlow. I think there should just be a little, in the same way the umps are being given the stats now, they should just be given a little asterisk that says, hey, by the way, just chuck one in for Bont while you're at it.
Obviously, he won't win this year because Errol Goulden's got it locked away. But in 27 onwards, I'm big on the Bont for that.
Let's turn to the final game. Big event for the St Kilda Football Club. We wanted this. We campaigned for the opening round game in Victoria against the biggest club in the country and the biggest stadium. And I've got to say, we got 81,000 through, which is the largest home and away crowd we've ever played in front of. A little disappointing, I think. I think most Saints fans are expecting maybe 90,000. Disappointing for many reasons. Obviously, a lot of hype coming into the season. Collingwood missing three of their best players, Bobby Hill, Darcy Moore, Jeremy Howe. And it just was we weren't embarrassed. We weren't disgraced, but it just was one of those like missing shots, 20 out directly in front, 23 more forward 50 entries, win the contested ball, win centre clearance. Look, you're a statistician or you're a guy who loves statistics. What does it say when you are winning all the metrics, but you are still losing? Does that point to that says the system is working, right? But there is some fundamental flaw in the execution or the output. Like put your
or there's a deeper set of metrics rolling beneath it that your coaching staff are having a look at now. Of okay, sure, we won the centre clearance. What did we do with it then?
Yes.
Or what did we do with it the kick after that? I mean, the only stat that really matters is how often does the ball go between the big sticks. And with the greatest respect to your guys, who couldn't be faulted for lack of trying.
Oh, my God, it was too much trying at some points. It was like watching Little League. The ball would come in and there seemed to just be no system or communication or composure, I think is the big one. Like that was my big fear is like Collingwood play in front of 80,000 fucking for breakfast. This is so common to them. But for us, we built it up. We asked for this. There's a lot of hype, and we had a lot of young guys out there. And I did get the sense that some of them were just overawed. Like they just panicked, miskicked, didn't know what to do. And it's just like, God damn it.
Yeah. If that had been a game later in the season where both teams had bedded down, you'd look at the Saints and go, unfortunately, I just don't think they've got another gear to go to. They just didn't have an option to change that. I think you can relax, mate. It is too early to be too worried about that. And it is the double-edged sword of playing the largest game your club has ever played in round 0 of a season against a team who plays that sort of number several times a year. They are going to bring some inherent advantage there. At the same time, the Pies had a few players out, and you would have liked your guys to be maybe a little bit stickier in the contest.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, right? Like it sort of felt like there were there was moments in the game where both teams had the ascendancy, but it sort of felt like when Collingwood had the ascendancy, it was like we had to go into a very negative defensive game style to halt it, which meant that we then couldn't attack. So we just dropped all our numbers back. We would win the ball in their forward 50 and then not have the explosiveness to then move it forward or the forward targets because we're kicking. We kept kicking these high balls to our small forwards when they're 2-on-1, and it was very disappointing. But having said that, I agree with you. I'm not panicking. I did see a lot of Saints fans being like, "This is fucking the worst thing in the world," and we're so embarrassed. And I think that's just years and years of shame. Saints fans just been conditioned into self-loathing and hatred and shame. It wasn't that bad, Saints fans. Let me tell you, we had some players underperform. We had a lot of guys go missing, too many passengers, all those things. But ultimately, we fell short, 2 goals short of a team who played in a prelim last year with the best player in the competition. And I know there was an awful lot of talk about Naz v Daicos leading to the preseason, but that didn't come from us. That came from the Fox Footy commentary team who were trying to, get some AI generated articles that they could spit out during the week from their commentary team.
Yeah.
Daicos, though, oh my God. I just, what a freak. Just love watching him play. Like I say this every time, but he does things that no other player can do. And it's not even necessarily like, you think about like your Chris Judds or Adam Goods or, any of those kind of like groundbreaking dual Brownlow medalist kind of players. And they had just that athletic advantage that, made them better than others. Daicos has that, but I think it is more the way his brain works, the way he sees the game, does not talk about composure. Like he'll get the ball amongst 3 opponents and just hold on to it long enough until he sees the exact moment to release, and
To hit some dirty check side,
check
30
side
meter
that
arcing.
no one else could hit. Like but he doesn't make a mistake. That's the thing about him is like I think if you're an opponent of his, if you are either tagging him or you're just in the vicinity of a Nick Daicos and he gets the ball, all of a sudden you've got this added pressure because Jesus, if I don't affect some kind of pressure on this, like this could lead to a score assist or whatever it is. And so, and the longer he got the ball 41 times, 41 times, Adam. Like, and I don't know how many of those like led to direct scores, but I felt like people always, the knock on Nick Daicos, it's, he gets his dinky kicks in the back line and he just, he just pads the stats sheet. I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, give him the ball and he will get it where it needs to go. Like,
by definition, if it's a dinky kick, that means he is standing by himself with no pressure on. In what circumstance would you not kick the ball to Nick Daicos if you saw him standing by himself saying, "Could you please kick me the ball?" You would be an absolute idiot if you didn't kick the ball to Nick Daicos.
Yeah, I mean, we probably could have tagged him. That's my
Up
big
to you.
takeaway is
Up
like,
to you.
maybe send a player
Up to you.
to the best player in the game. Just have someone run with him. But yeah, look, I think disappointing. I'm not freaking out. Like the problem is now though, is we play Melbourne in round 1.
Yep.
And that becomes, if we lose that, then there will be a lot of acid on the club. So we've put out, we had the chance to kind of take some pressure off, but now we've just doubled down the pressure. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's what we need to do to advance.
Mindful of time, Charlie, can I squeeze a couple of quick things onto
You
the
can.
agenda for week 0 of Two Guys, One Cup? First of all, speaking Collingwood, former premiership player and 2018 Brownlow medalist Tommy Mitchell made his debut on the round so far.
Yes.
Now, I love the round so far. I did worry that after Kane Cornes vanished as host, it was never going to recover. But I think Xander Maguire has made it his own. And on the weekend after the Friday and Thursday games, I think it was Saturday morning this was broadcast, Tom Mitchell from Collingwood has joined the round so far stable. And that's awesome to see a guy get a gig after football. Handled himself quite well. Must have been a little bit nervous. 2 things leapt out at me. Now a lot of players come into commentary and they'll have their own trademark little word or angle that they take. Tommy Mitchell refers to the team that you're playing against as the Oppo.
Yeah. Oppo research, mate. Have you never heard that before?
No, Hawthorn, tough Oppo. No, that doesn't.
No, mate. That's common parlance. The Oppo research.
The Oppo doesn't work for me at all.
Enough.
But the thing that was truly amazing was Xander Maguire said, Tom Mitchell here, making the round so far debut. We're so excited to have him here. And it's a big day for Tom. He just became a father this morning.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how early they record the round so far, but it goes into your feed. It doesn't hang on till midnight, right? So he's become a father in the wee hours and then broached with the mother of his child. I've got to nick off and host the round so far with Xander Maguire.
Yeah.
That is the bravest act that premiership player and Brownlow medalist has ever committed on or off a football field.
That's right.
When I was lucky enough to witness the miracle of birth twice, I was terrified to say, would you like some more cold water, let alone I'm nicking off to do some TV. I'll be back after they've cut the umbilical cord.
Well, I believe you did the Two Guys One Cup live grand final show, and that was a week after my daughter was born, and I was too scared to ask for a day off. Like a week after she was born, it's on Mitchell. I mean, that's why he's a Brownlow medalist. He clearly gets the job done. See baby, get baby, or get baby, go baby, or whatever the phrase is. All right, Spence. Thank you so much for sitting.
Can I squeeze one more thing,
Yes.
Charlie, that I know you're going to love? This is amazing. I was just looking at the ladder, right?
Yes.
And you know how each team has points for and against, and their points on the table, and then they've got their percentage, right?
Yeah.
This is really cool. So the Swans' percentage, 191.3. Multiplied by our opponents, Carlton, 52.3, you get almost exactly 10,000. Multiply the Gold Coast by the Geelong, you get almost exactly 10,000. The Giants, against their opponents, Hawthorn, multiply those two numbers together, again, almost 10,000. What's going on here, Charlie?
I don't know. What does it mean? I mean, why'd you bring that up if you didn't have a point?
The point is that if you multiply your percentage against the team you beat, they've got to cancel out and give you exactly one. 100%, 100 times 100 is 10,000. Tough crowd. Okay. The one thing you can do at the end of the season, this is cool. If you take the ladder after the 18 rounds, the 23 rounds, and multiply all the percentages together,
Yeah.
get exactly one, Charlie.
That's amazing. Everyone listening can do that at the end of the
on?
season.
Is this Harlow? Is this what?
Can I also just plug, so a new feature we're doing on Patreon on Thursday nights when the teams come out. I'm doing a little live show where I will go through the team list, sometimes with guests, sometimes with not, depending on who's available. But we go through the team list, we look at the games, we make some predictions, we do some tips. So sign up to our Patreon. You can sign up for any level, Adam, from $1 to $100 if you want, or $10,000 if you want to keep true to the percentage multiplication formula. Anyway, just come join Patreon on a Thursday night. There'll be a link in the episode description. I'll be back again next week. I have my sign off. Have you got one ready to go, Spence?
And if people want to catch me, I've ventured into the world of Substack. So look up Adam B. Spencer on Substack, or just search for Adam Spencer online to keep on top of all my nerdy news and general geekery. Yeah, I've got one, mate. After you.
Okay, link in the episode description for that. But we'll be back again next week. Play on, not 15.
Stand 50.
Little footy-loving dickheads, dreaming about a Premiership Cup. We love our clubs, but they never win. 2 flags in 100 years. The shit house. If you think we'll be insightful, clever, or just well researched, we're here to say that's not the case. We'll just go out and wing it. We are 2 guys, 1 cup.